the show with your friend and mine. So tell me, Dr. Squee, who's it gonna be this time? We like to hear you talk, and we love to hear you listen. And if you are not subscribed, you won't know what you're missing. So welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Headphones up. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. I'm Dr. Squee, and this, of course, is my show. Very glad to be welcoming you tonight. We're just waiting for Eddie Pence, our interviewee for tonight, to join us, and he'll be here in just a minute. He is just setting up. He has assured me. Bit of a tense moment. I went on to see, like, if he'd seen the link, and he hadn't even seen it yet. Like, so already at 6:30, like, I'm going, okay, is this going to work out? Have I got the right time zone? Because it's 10:30 in the morning for him. But luckily we have. So we will just chat for a minute while we're waiting. What have I got to share with you guys? Been a busy day at work. I did finish Line of Duty for anyone who's following that particular saga with me. Great show. I can understand why people were annoyed at the ending. It was a good last series. I liked it. But we do need another series. We need to know what happened. We can't leave what is it? UC 12? Undercover 12? Whatever it's called. Anyway, we can't leave them defanged like they are with no powers and, you know, letting the bad guys get away. We can't leave it like that. We need a proper ending. But that is not in my preview. What is in my preview is, of course, welcoming you to the show and telling you that, of course, if you're interested in hearing the show, this interview plus loads of live chat, the big question of the week, loads of stuff like that, you can go to the Dr. Squee Show on the Bear.live every Thursday at 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. That's UK time. We're currently in British Summer Time, BST. So please do check that against your local time zones and do tune in. We play some great tracks. We have some adequate chat from me. We have the big question of the week's always fun. So this week, I think what we're going for, I haven't launched it yet, so we'll launch it right here. It's going to be, if you could give a superpower to someone else, what would it be? And who would you give it to? So you've got to give a superpower to someone else. What would that be? If you're watching, please do write in the chat what superpower you would give to whom. And yeah, we'll read out all the answers live on Thursday between 8 and 10 p.m. UK time. Eddie is not just here yet, but no worries. It's a wonderful hot day here in the UK. We've been having a bit of a heat wave. We're not used to this strange glowing orb in the sky that I believe some refer to as the sun, but meh, never seen it myself. Yeah, so bloody hell, it is hot though. I mean, it's hot when we take Benny out, our little dog. We've got a little dog, a big dog. When we take little Benny out and he just runs around for about 5 minutes, pants the rest of the hour out. We don't force him to stay out, by the way. We do take him down to a river's edge so he can cool down. But as soon as he comes home in the moment, he just collapses. We don't hear from him until the evening when he decides it's a really good time to catch up on his day's barking that he's missed out on. And so that's what we hear in the evening. It's like, right, do you want to go outside? No. Do you want some food? No. Like, he doesn't want anything. He just wants to bark for the sake of barking. And hello to everyone who's joining us right now. We've got a few viewers by the looks of things. We're just waiting for Eddie Pence to join us. And if you've missed me rattling on about it, you can catch this interview along with some chat and tunes on Thursday on the Bear.live, 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. That's the Dr. Squee Show radio show. And the Bear.live has got wonderful other shows in there as well. It's got the Eurovision show, Talking Codswallop, the Secondhand Songs, where we play cover songs, and that's with our beloved station manager, Mr. Al Galpin. But we need worry not about that right now. We're joined by my guest this week. He is a man who's a stand-up comedian. He's the vice host of the Ralph Report. And if his wife asks, this show could have taken up to 3 hours because he said he might actually get some like alone time during this time. So like if anyone asks, this was a 3-hour interview bare minimum. Please welcome to the Dr. Squee Show, Eddie Pence.
Hey,
how you doing, sir?
How's it going?
Very well, thank you. I know what it's like when you've got a family. You just like any alone time, you just gotta just grab it.
This morning was especially. My wife threw her back out like 2 days ago.
Oh, nice.
So she can't even like put her pants on. So the reason I was late is because I was trying to clear the table up so she could eat breakfast because she can't like sit at the coffee table like on the couch, or she's gonna eat breakfast on the couch watching TV, but she couldn't. So I had to clear the table off, and I had to make breakfast for the kid, and then the dog was everywhere, and I had to clean up that poop. It's been a morning. It's been a morning.
What kind of dog you got, sir?
We just got a Jack Russell Terrier puppy. He's like this big. He's a handful. He's a nightmare.
We've got two dogs. I was just talking about our dog Benny. He's a Romanian rescue who just likes to bark at anything. It's actually so hot in the UK at the moment. When he's out for the day, he sleeps during the day, but then he decides in the evening to catch up on any lost barking he might have missed out on.
Well, it's all saved up. He's got to get it out.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite dashing. It's a really weird thing. It looks like he's a cut and shut of a dog. Like, yeah, you hold him up and it probably just kind of droops down. Like, we think it's part Dachshund, but it's all guesswork because, found on the side of a road, so what do we know?
Yeah, if puppies weren't so cute, they'd be dead. We'd have no dogs if there were no cute puppies because you would murder every puppy. That's how annoying they are.
No, I'm just going to say this, and anyone can judge me how they will. Like, I was so pleased to save him from Romania because over there, if those dogs get found on the side of the road, they get put down in kill shelters.
Yeah.
There were a few moments when he was a puppy where I was like, I sort of see their point. I'm not condoning it, but I sort of
you see where they're coming from.
Yeah. When you've just been kept awake all night by him howling at the moon.
Yeah. Or then like he'll take a crap in the kitchen floor and you're like, okay, you crapped in the kitchen floor. I get that. That's fine. We're potty training you, but did you have to walk through it? Did you have to like turn around and then walk directly over top of it and then drag it through the rest of the house?
I've got a story that can beat that. We kind of crate trained him in the end, which he actually took to really well. But to begin with, we were trying to see if we could get him to settle down our bedroom like our other dog Dottie does, the Labrador. Right. And he used to delight in just shitting my side of the bed. I don't know why, but for some reason, this was his toilet. He decided. He got in early with that. And one day, we just got the crate set up, and we got him into the crate, and we were very pleased with ourselves. Like, oh, finally we can relax. I reached for my bottle of water I keep by the side of the bed. Went to drink. I go,
oh no,
that smells a bit and tastes a bit funny. Like, because taste is locked in with smell. Like,
yeah,
your taste is. So I didn't realize this. I was like, sounds a bit funny. I pull it back from my face. There is shit just down the side of the bottle. I must have missed drinking shit by that much. I just missed getting any fecal matter into my mouth. Only for the grace of the lid covering that bit did I not get shit in my mouth.
Puppies.
I swear he gave me a look and winked at that moment as well. That's the worst. I swear.
It's like there's more where that came from.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll see you again tomorrow night, Dad. Yeah, how are you, sir?
Other than the hectic morning, I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right.
And you've been doing some homeschooling recently with your kid. She said she got on okay. She is it?
No, it's a little boy, Colton. He's fine.
I do my research, me.
You never know these days. You don't know.
Yeah, could have changed in the meantime. That's my excuse.
It could have changed last week. I don't know. He's doing good. We did remote learning all year. We're in Los Angeles, California, and LAUSD didn't even open up for hybrid schooling until I think April, where they were letting kids come in 2 days a week and then remote learning the other 3 days of the week. So we were going to take him back. He was going to go back in April, do the hybrid program, but like literally the week before he was supposed to go into school, they had like a COVID outbreak at the school. And we're like, well, we didn't keep him inside for a year to let him go back to a COVID outbreak for 1 more month of school. So we just kept him at home the rest of the year. So, but he's fully vaccinated now. So I think hopefully we're in the clear.
You see, I can't think of anything worse. I think I would be telling my kid who, by the way, like fully grown adult now. So I feel okay saying this. He was a lot of shit when he was a kid. And like, I mean, I've got 2 kids. So 3 from various marriages. They're all stepkids, but like,
wow, good for you.
Well, when I was married before, I had 2 stepkids, and they were young when I kind of started dating their mum, and like, so they're kind of my kids as far as I've seen. Gotcha. And now I've got a stepkid from my upcoming marriage, so that's how that works out. But my son, so
you take on a lot, is what you're saying.
I just adopt. That's my thing. Don't.
So it's not just dogs. It's people too.
I just took that as a general rule, basically. But yeah, he was a nightmare when he was at school. He's got autism, and like, so, you know, part of it you can understand. Other parts of it, I think it was just him, quite frankly. But I think it would have been a mixture of that. And if I was homeschooling, I'd have to go and take anything I say with a pinch of salt, mind.
Yeah.
But here we go. Let's give this a go. You know, I wouldn't feel clever enough to teach. That's what I feel.
When everything happened last year, when it all shut down last March, it kind of hit the teachers by surprise too. They were unexpected. They didn't know what to do either. So his remote learning for 5th grade, when he was in 5th grade, for like the last month and a half of school, was awful because the teachers didn't know what to do. They got blindsided like we all did. But they had the whole summer last summer to sort of recoup and get together. And then this year, his remote learning was great. He went into his room at like 8:30 in the morning and came out for lunch for an hour, and then went back in and came back out at 2 when school was over. And he got great grades. The teachers were all incredible on remote learning. Like, this year has been great. Like, finishing up 5th grade was a challenge. We had to be involved because he just wasn't getting anything. He was getting like an hour of education a day. But this past year, the teachers really locked in on how to do remote learning, and they got really good at it, and he really excelled this year. So,
oh, well done.
Because if it was up to me to educate him, he'd be in a lot of trouble.
I would actually be turning to his sister and just going, Amy, you do it. You're better than me at this. It's like Bart and Lisa Simpson, like in real life, those two.
Yeah, just, you have any questions, ask Alexa or Siri or one of those automated things. They know the answer.
Here's your teacher for today.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get on to you, sir, in the main. So you grew up in Virginia?
I did. I grew up on the East Coast in Virginia, yeah.
How was that growing up? Like, did you start in comedy there, or was that when you moved to LA?
I graduated. I went to college. I did like the normal thing as a kid, and I graduated college. And then as soon as I graduated college, I moved to California, and that's when I started getting into stand-up comedy and acting. And, you know, eventually that leads to podcasting because that's what the business has become. So I got into podcasting, and the rest is, you know, sort of history.
So what was it like, which drew you out? Was it going to California for those opportunities?
I'd always wanted to do stand-up comedy. Like, ever since I was a little kid, that's really all I ever wanted to do. Like, I remember watching old stand-up specials on HBO or sneaking up late at night and watching the comedies, you know, on the Tonight Show, watching, you know, Seinfeld do a 5-minute spot on the Tonight Show or something. Like, I would watch those guys. Like, that's what I want to do. That looks so much fun to do. And then so growing up in Virginia, I didn't know how to get into stand-up comedy. There's just no way to do it. There's no, like, you know, it's like any other job. You're like, okay, I'll just go and here's my application. I'll apply, you'll interview me and I'll get the job or not. Like, there's no way to get into stand-up comedy like that. It's just sort of like however you can get into it. So Virginia, there was really no open mics that I knew about. I didn't know how to get up on stage in Virginia. So what I did is I got into graduate school in California, and I moved to LA to go to graduate school. And while I was out here, I was like, I'm going to try this. This is what I've always wanted to do. I'm going to try it. So I took one of those stand-up comedy classes, because at the end of the stand-up comedy class, they put you up on stage at the Comedy Store in Hollywood. And that was the motivator, the thing that sort of like forced me to get on stage. That was like sort of my application process. Like, okay, if I sign up for this class at the end of 8 weeks, they're going to put me on stage. So that's basically why I took the class, to get up on stage. And then after that, you meet other comedians and you learn how you get booked in other shows and where the open mics are. And it just sort of goes on from there. But that was the catalyst, I guess, for getting into stand-up comedy, was moving to California under the guise of going to graduate school, and then sort of taking a stand-up comedy class, which they can be helpful, I guess. They're not required to get into stand-up comedy, but for me, it was the only way I knew how to get on stage. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. And is that all about getting your first 10 minutes together, or like, what do they show you there?
It's sort of like the class I took was, I think he still teaches. It's called the Greg Dean Comedy School or something like that. It's here in Los Angeles. He's been around for 20 or 30, probably 30 years now. And he basically teaches you it's very educational when he breaks down joke structure about setup, misdirection, punch, and he teaches the psychology of a joke, like how the setup teaches our brains, it teaches the audience, okay, we're going this one way, and then we take them the other way, and it's that juxtaposition, that switch from what we expect to what's given to us that elicits the laughter. So it's sort of you find out why people laugh at things, which was very interesting to me, the psychology of laughter. And so he would break down joke structure that way. I don't really I'm more a storyteller a lot when I do stand up, but I do have the elements of the jokes. Like this one joke in my act where I'm like, it's a perfect example of his breaking down joke structure, and the unexpected punchline elicits the laughter. I have this joke where I go, my son just lost a tooth this week. And everyone's sort of like, oh, okay. And then I go, yeah, because he didn't make his bed, and those are the rules. Like that's the the bait and switch. It's sort of like, okay, you guys, he lost his tooth because he's a little kid, and little kids lose their teeth or whatever. And then I'm like, oh no, he lost his tooth because he didn't make his bed, and I beat him, and he lost his tooth. Like that's the joke. That elicits the laughter. So it's sort of like that was educational, taking that part of the class to learn why people laugh, because at that time I didn't know what was funny and what was not funny. I didn't know why people laughed at certain things.
Do you remember any of those earlier bits?
Oh God, I used to have one about like I watched like one of those. It was like a Maury Povich show or something like that. One of those Jerry Springer shows where they were interviewing some like really overweight person that had gotten stuck in their house. Right, they gotten so
they
large.
Take the wall down.
Yeah, they had to take the wall down to get the person out of the house. And I was like, I had a joke. I was like, imagine if they ate that cheeseburger that put them over the top when they were outside, and then they'd be stuck outside. So, banging on the garage door, let me in. Like, it was like, that was, I mean, I was going, when you first start out, you make these horrible jokes about the easiest things possible, toilet paper, fat people, homeless people. Like you don't realize that, comedy, you're supposed to punch up. You're supposed to make fun of the people that need to be taken down, not the people that are, that are in need or in need of help. You don't punch at those people. So you learn that as you go on. But when you first start out, you're just trying to get laughs, and anything you think is funny, you say up there. So that was one of those jokes that I did early on. I look back, I'm like, oh, that was probably not in the best taste to make fun of a person who's morbidly obese.
I don't know. I sort of, in a weird way, look up to these people. I mean, I got to 18 stone. I pussied out. I lost 4 stone. Like, we got Dylan Stone over here. Yeah. I don't know what the equivalent is, but like, I lost quite a lot of weight. Yeah. Like, I chickened out too early. Those guys wait until they can't get through a wall.
It's amazing. I can't believe. And then I think I capped the joke with like, he's walking around, he eats a cheeseburger, and then I did the physical bit of like, and then I fall down. Like that was the last moment I could move. I was so big that last bite made me immobile. That's how fat that last bite made me. So it was like, but you evolve, and then you start talking about, and with stand-up, you start talking about things like personal to you, like your life. Like I got married and I had a kid, so I start incorporating my own life experience instead of just like reading the newspaper and go, okay, what can I make fun of in here? What can I make fun of in here? If you start, that's when comedy becomes more personal, and I think that's when you get the good stuff.
Yeah, I also imagine. Sorry, I'm kind of caught up on the fat thing now. I'm sorry. As someone who used to be, like, I was technically into morbidly obese, but I was kind of the shallow end of that particular pool. Right. But like, I think of the shit I was eating at the time. You wonder, it's like, what were they eating? Like, I know the crap I was eating. Like, how do you get to that? I don't know. Like, it's a mystery world. I
mean, I can eat junk food better than anybody. I mean, but I can't imagine getting to the point where like you just keep throwing it in, and it's just like, I mean, I guess it's, it's an addiction like anything else, I suppose. And you just can't control yourself. And I don't know. That seems like a lot of work to get that big.
It does. Anyway, like, so you've done your stand-up class. You've kind of got your 10 minutes. How do you kind of go from there into kind of evolving into an hour?
Well, we did the like it culminates with your show at the Comedy Store. And we did my first time ever on stage was at the Comedy Store in the Belly Room, which is the small stage upstairs. And it goes great because it's packed with friends and everything like that, So your first show, usually when you do stand-up comedy, your first show is awesome and you think you're great. You kill, because usually you have a lot of friends in there, and you have this nervous energy about you because it's your first time on stage. So you have these, what they call laugh ears. You think everything is, you hear laughs that aren't there. So the first show is always amazing. And you realize what comedy is when you do that second show. When you go to that open mic where nobody knows you, and there's 4 people in the audience, and then there's 7 other comics waiting to go up, and they're just looking at their notepads, reading their jokes, getting ready to go up, and no one's paying attention. And then you realize, oh, this is what comedy is. This is where you really learn how to cut your teeth and get good at this. And so you do that. You go to the open mics, you go to the coffee houses, and you meet other comics and you find out what other comics book shows, and then you try to get on their shows. And then they have this thing called bringer shows where, where you can get stage time if you bring 5 people, and that's how they fill the audience. So you have like 25 comics all doing 3 minutes, and they've all brought 5 people. So it's a 4-hour show of unfunny people listening to their friends laugh at them, giving them all this false sense of reality. So it's just this self-perpetuating thing where these people keep doing comedy that aren't good at comedy because they keep having their audience follow them around. And so once you break out of that cycle of the bringer show and you get into like, okay, I'm being booked at the big clubs and I'm being booked on the real shows, and then so that's when you really start developing your act, and you start getting that 10 minutes, and you stretch it to 15, and then you do your 30-minute spot, and then you finally get up to like 45. And then at that point, hopefully you found a headliner who will take you on the road and let you open for him. And so you're doing feature work outside of Los Angeles or New York, wherever you started, and you're doing feature work in other states or other countries, and you're doing 20 minutes in front of real crowds that when they go out to see comedy, they don't know who the comic is, and they're going out just for a good time. And that's when you really figure out, okay, can I write comedy? Can I write stuff that's not just about Los Angeles traffic and something that everyone in that area can relate to? You go out and you can write things that sort of like people you've never met, people that don't have common shared experience with you, that you can make them laugh. And that's when you realize, okay, I think I can do stand-up comedy. So it's a long way to get there, but
Yeah.
that's how you figure out if you can do it.
I mean, it seems like the first threshold is like if you're at one of those gigs where you each bring 5 friends, if you can hear a 6th person laughing, you made it. Like that's a good start,
If you can get some stranger to come up to you after the show, go, oh, that bit was really funny, then you're like, oh, okay, I did it. Because when your friends say that was funny, you're like, okay, well, I'm glad that's why you're here. You're supposed to say that.
And do you remember like who was the first person you kind of went on tour with?
The first guy that really took me out for a long time, I'd gone out before, but the guy that took me on the road for a while was Ian Bagg. I don't know if you've heard of him or not before. He works a lot. He's from Canada, but he works all over the place, and he's a crowd work comedian. Like his show is different every single time. Like he gets up and he sort of talks to the audience, and he has his set bits or whatever, his set jokes, but he weaves them in and out of doing this amazing crowd work where by the end of the show, the entire audience, and he's calling back things at the end of his show that people said at the beginning of the show. And it's a crazy experience to watch him. And I learned a lot being on the road with him about how to deal with the unknown, which is what comedy is. Comedy is like people try to get up. Like I've had a lot of friends who tried to start stand-up comedy, and they're all like, I'll do it in 6 months. I'm going to write this 5 minutes and I'll get up in 6 months. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work because you can't write a perfect set. You just need to get up and fail. You need to get up in that open mic with those 4 audience members there that aren't paying attention and fail, and then keep doing that and keep doing that, because that's how you get better at it. Because comedy is not like this, I've written 5 minutes, I'm going to do it, they're all going to laugh, and I'm going to get down. That's not how it works. Comedy is you're flying a plane through a shitstorm, and every single set, you got to try to land that plane, and then, or you crash. You either land the plane or you crash. Every stand-up set is like that. And the more you do it, the better you get, the more you land the plane. There's always that chance you're going to crash that plane every single set. No matter how you've been doing it 25 years, doesn't matter. You can still crash that plane, but the more times you do it, the better your chances are of landing that plane, because it's always a shitstorm. Comedy is always a shitstorm, and it's just about being experienced enough to be able to land that plane every time.
Yeah, and like it seems like the biggest challenge is when a stand-up comedian absolutely tanks, which can be just in the eyes of like you can have the best routine which kills everyone else, just on that one night though it can just go nowhere, and you've just got to get through that hour. That just seems like such an endurance thing to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, comedy, first of all, is subjective. So you do find those audiences that don't find things funny that you find funny. But the thing is, as a comedian, you can't be affected by it. You're the one with the microphone. You have the power in the room, and you cannot give that power away to the people in the audience. And the minute you give them that power, they don't give it back, and they can sense it, because the audience is a living organism. It's one giant living organism. It's you and that giant organism. So it's not a bunch of individuals. It's a big thing, and you have to go up and then sort of attack it as this big giant living thing in front of you, and you have to tame it and you have to control it. Now And that's part of the challenge of stand-up comedy. And there's always those unruly people, a couple drunk people in the crowd that will disrupt the show. But for the most part, that audience is there to have fun and be entertained. And most of the time, you can get them on your side and sort of ostracize that rowdy drunk person, and they will leave or shut up. But that's part of the trick of comedy, is sort of trying to tame that wild animal that is the audience. And you do get those audiences that don't like you or don't think you're funny, but you just you acknowledge the reality of the moment and you keep going forward. If you can't get up there and just keep doing your jokes and not acknowledging that this audience is not liking what you're doing. And then you sort of try to find a way to, you know, get something out of them. Because, you know, as a comic, you'd rather have them boo you than just sit there with their arms crossed in indifference. Indifference is the killer. You don't want indifference. You either want them laughing or like hating you, like one of the two.
Yeah, I mean, it's just when you hear about like comedians back in the day, and I'm sure it's still to this day, but like Bill Hicks springs to mind, where he used to do longer sets the more they hated on him. So if he got an audience which annoyed him, he'd go, right, you're going to sit here for another 10 minutes listening to me.
I'm gonna drive you crazy. Yeah. But they were engaged with him because I sat there. If they were indifferent, they'd get up and walk away. So in a way, he's succeeding because he's engaged him to the point where he's like, and these people hate me so much, they're willing to sit through this.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and in 2004, you went to the Montreal Comedy Festival where you won the Top New Faces.
The business used to be a lot different. Like in the 80s and 90s, there was the Montreal Comedy Festival, which is the biggest comedy festival in the world. It's like a world famous. It's like the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It's one of those top, humongous, big festivals.
Just for laughs was on every year when I was a kid.
It's
huge. I used to catch on Channel 4 over here.
It's enormous. And it used to be the gateway to get into the business. Like as a comedian starting out, you wanted to get new faces. You wanted to be selected as one of the top new faces that year. And I think at the time when I did it, they only selected 20 comics a year from all over the world to go to Montreal to be a new face. And so in 2004, I guess I'd been doing stand-up at that time for like 6 or 7 years, which is still technically a new face. And yeah, I showcased and I got it. And that was like, at the time, it's like, that was like a humongous honor to be selected, because it was not easy to get into that festival and it was very selective. And then, like I said, there's only 20 comics from all over the world that got to be a new face. Now they've done it. Now they've sort of evolved to the point where like Montreal has like new faces represented. So it's new faces with agents, and then it's new faces unrepresented. So it's new faces that don't have agents. Then it's got new faces characters. So it's new face comics that only do characters. Like they've divided up into all these different groups. So they've expanded the pool to like, I don't know, there's probably 100 now. I don't know what it is, but it used to be, if you were one of the funniest 20 new people that they've discovered in that year, you got accepted in the festival. And if you got into the festival new face, that was sort of like, you've made it. You're in the business now. And it wasn't that way when I got in 2004. It was sort of like in the 90s, if you got in as a new face, you got a development deal with some studio or some network. Like you were making money as a comedian right away. You were like, they signed you to some sort of development deal. That kind of went away in like the late 90s, early 2000s, when like they realized they were giving deals out to 20 comics a year, and it was just a big waste of money because like 19 of those comics you never hear from again. So they're just throwing money away. So the business changed a lot at that time, and that was sort of the internet kicked around at that time. YouTube started coming around, so like everything started evolving to me in this more. It wasn't sort of clubs anymore and festivals and studios and networks. You had this whole new landscape of the internet, which sort of changed everything. So companies stopped giving money out. Studios stopped throwing development deal money out in the early 2000s. So by the time I got into Montreal, they weren't throwing out money anymore. So I missed out on that part. But the idea that I got into the Montreal Comedy Festival then was still pretty prestigious, still pretty cool to be accepted in to be one of those top 20 comics that year. So
yeah, it was still amazing. Just sucks that you're a few years late for the money in the deal.
I just missed like the good part where I would have made money.
Like 5 years out by the sound.
It's the story of my life.
Does it, like, though? I mean, I assume it still changes the status and kind of the rooms you can book and things like that. Like, did you get some back end from that?
Yeah, I mean, I like, you go up there and it's all industry. You're doing, it's weird because it's it's the weirdest set you'll ever do in your life. You go up and you do like a 7-minute set in front of mostly industry crowd. It's mostly agents and bookers and casting directors and people from all over the world that are in show business, but on the business side, on the buyer side is what they call it, the gatekeepers, I guess. And
Yeah.
so you're up there doing your 7-minute set, nervous because there are people in Montreal that go for the laughs, they go for the festival, but in the back room where it's all dark, the audience is up front, and then the back is all dark, and they all have these pins with lights on them because they're taking notes the whole time you're up there. So they have these little pins that you click, and there's a light on the tip of the pin so they can see the paper so they can write in the dark, right? So you're sitting there, you're doing your 7-minute set, trying to make these people in front of you laugh, but in the back, it looks like there's a bunch of fireflies floating around the room.
Is it like they brought lighters out? Like
yeah,
you've done
it
really
almost looks like a bunch of lighters, but they're not there because they're enjoying the show and they want you to play Freebird one more time. They're there because they're taking notes about you. So every time you see that little light bounce around after you tell a joke, someone's writing about you. And you see like 100 of them in the back of the room, and you're like, that is a big mind fuck, like a humongous mind fuck while you're trying to perform.
And did they appreciate your rendition of Freebird? Did they fuck?
They did. They really like my Freebird. I have a really good Freebird. But yeah, it's a mind fuck. It's crazy. But like you go up there, and it's not so much about the set that you do. It's a lot about hanging out at the after parties and meeting the people, and you make the connections. Like I met a lot of people there that eventually led to me getting TV spots a couple years later. Like because the whole business is a relationship business. It's all relationships. And so you meet people and you develop these relationships over time. And then, a couple years later, I got a spot on Comedy Central because of some people I'd met in 2004 at Montreal. And then 2007, I got on the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson because of someone I'd met. So it was just sort of like, oh yeah.
I'm just such a big fan of Craig Ferguson. He actually, first time I saw him was on a show over here called Red Dwarf, which is like the sci-fi show, like sci-fi comedy.
Yeah.
And he kind of was just playing this bit part, but absolutely fantastic comedian over here. I felt like the odds were always against him getting a show in America. It was just a fluke of luck, and it was so different to anything you've got on late night. Still to this day in the States.
He was brilliant.
How was it going on his show? It's just so bizarre. Like
it was even more bizarre than what you think, because the way they shot the Late Late Show back then with Craig Ferguson is he was still doing active stand-up. So he would go out of town on the weekends to go do stand-up. So he would not. He would record 2 shows on Thursday. I believe it was. I tried this a while ago. I'm trying to remember how he recorded. He would record 2 shows on Thursday and then have Friday off because he would travel and do stand up Friday, Saturday, around the country, and then he'd come back and do Monday through Thursday and record the Late Late Show. But on Thursday he would record 2 shows, and then they would have. But they recorded for like 3 weeks down the line. They didn't record day of. Like if you ever sat in the Tonight Show, they record day of live to tape. Like they do the show, they record like 5 o'clock in the afternoon for an hour straight, like they're doing the real show. And then they do maybe some small edits, some small tweaks. They take breaks as they're doing it, like for commercials. They'll cut for commercial breaks where the commercials get inserted. And then later they just air it at 11 p.m. or 11:30 that night. And that's called live to tape. They shoot it like they're doing it live. Yeah. That show shot, they would shoot it and they would stop and they would start, and they would stop and they'd start. And then they would bring comics on that they were going to do like, they book like 3 comics at a time, and they would bring all the comics on and we all do our sets. And then they would cut us out and they would just put us into different shows wherever they wanted us. Like the show I did, Craig Ferguson wasn't on set. He introduces me. You see, if you watch the video of me doing the Craig Ferguson show, he's like, "Hey, I want to comedian Eddie Pence, everybody." And then he's at the desk, and it cuts to me walking out on stage, and I like wave at him like he's there. And then I go and I do my set, right? And then I leave. But he's not there. He'd already left. I was in the wings of the studio getting ready to go on, and he walks out. He walks past me. He's like, "Hey, have fun out there." And he got on an elevator and flew to wherever he was going. And then the other 3 comics I was with, we all went out and did our sets. And I think I recorded sometime in May of that year, and they aired it in June. And they just cut me into whatever show they needed a comic for. It's very weird. And it's because any other show, you're there with the host and everything. It's very strange.
Was the pantomime horse there at least?
Yes.
They used to have.
He had that skeleton guy too, with the mohawk.
Yes. I just loved it. It just seemed it's a sort of an anarchic kind of show, which usually it would never get on late night. Usually,
I think it helped that it was buried at 12:30 at night. But I love that show. It was my favorite late night show.
Oh, I know, like nothing against Jane Corden per se, but like just nothing like that.
No, nothing
Yeah,
like that. It
yeah.
was, you didn't know what was going to happen. His monologues were amazing.
Another one which you work with, which another fantastic kind of his own thing comedian, Lewis Black, for Surviving the Holidays.
Yeah, there was a this is another thing where again I worked with someone that I never got to meet. And, they did this thing where again this like a connection I had made in Montreal years ago paid off like 3-4 years later. I think we did Surviving the Holidays like 2008 or 2009. I forgot what the year was. And they were doing this thing where Lewis Black had this like 1 hour thing on the History Channel about surviving the holidays with your in-laws or parents or whatever. And so it was, they would just interview different comedians about aspects of, I think it was Thanksgiving or different holidays like that. And it was just like one of those things where they would call you in and you'd be behind this white background and they would talk to you and you'd answer questions, you'd tell some jokes, talk about the history of Thanksgiving in America and how you don't really know the true meaning or true history of Thanksgiving. It's much different than what you learned in school. And so we did all that, and then they cut it together like Lewis Black was doing a show with all of us. But it's not the way it was at all. They just called me down there, I did it, and I left. And I never met anybody on the show.
Nice.
Like I had this they have this other thing on the History Channel they did with Lewis Black too. They called me back in because I guess they liked what I did. And it was called The History of the Joke, where they talked about the history of the joke. And this was another bit where I got to go in. They were doing different types of comedy bits, and I had this physical bit that I would do, and so they're talking about physical comedy. So they put my bit in there, but they had George Carlin intro it, so it looks like if you're watching the show, I worked with George Carlin. I didn't. I never met George Carlin. But it's a credit. I'm like, hey, yeah, I was on a show with George Carlin.
You've almost worked with some of the best.
Yes, I've almost worked with some. If you look at my IMDb page, it looks like I worked with some legends.
All I'm going to say is George Carlin was there. I was there.
Yeah.
Anything else we don't need to go into.
Prove me wrong.
That's all you need to know.
Prove me wrong.
Let's talk some Ralph Report, of course. So how did you first meet Ralph?
Doing stand-up comedy. Again, like I said, it's a relationship business. It's all it's ever going to be. It's all it's ever been. I was just doing stand-up comedy at the old John Lovett's Comedy Club at Universal City, where they used to do Hollywood Babylon all the time. And I would be performing the 8 o'clock show, and Babylon would come on at 10, right? And then it was weird because stand-up shows there got no audience. Like you'd be performing in front of those 4 angry people that don't watch you. It was like doing an open mic all over again. But Babylon, of course, there was a line around the block waiting to get in for Babylon. So I'm like, what is this show where there's 1,000 people waiting to get in for recording a podcast? Why are people, what is going on? And so I would stick around and watch. I'm like, oh, this is funny. It's Kevin. I knew who Kevin Smith was, and I'd heard of Ralph before because I'm in LA and you would hear him on the radio back at that time, but I didn't know him. K-Rock. I didn't know who he was. I just knew he was on the radio. And so I watched, and I was like, oh, this is hilarious. This is really funny. And as a comedian, you hang out at the club. That's what you do. And you meet other comedians. And I met Ralph there. And I met, at the time, the booker of the comedy club was Gabby. Her name was Gabby. And she later on became Ralph's assistant at K-Rock, or personal assistant after she left the comedy club. But before that, I was going to headline a weekend at Hollywood, at the Lovett's Club. I was going to be the headliner that weekend. And Gabby's like, I know Ralph. He works at K-Rock. I book him for Hollywood Babylon. Let me see if I can get you on K-Rock to help promote the show to try to get people in the door or whatever. I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. Thanks. So she did. Ralph trusted her opinion with comedians. So Ralph got me into the Kevin and Bean show on the morning show there on K-Rock, and I promoted the weekend, and we had a good time on the radio. And I would see him, every other weekend at the comedy club. He was doing Babylon, I was doing stand-up, and we just became friends that way. And then I would just hang out, and then they moved to the Improv, and I do stand-up at the Improv, and it was just one of those things where we would just hang out, we would talk and have a good time and make fun of people and, break each other's balls like we do on the show. And that's the rapport we've always had. And, he went through that terrible spell where he got, let go from K-Rock and all that crap. And he started his own show, and I'd always talk to him about the Ralph Report. Like I'd see him after Babylon or whatever. I'm like, hey, how's the show going? He's like, it's going great. Or whatever. And then really out of the blue, I'm literally getting ready to stand up at a burlesque show in front of 4 people, these same 4 angry people that keep following me around, not liking me. And I'm doing this show, and I get this text, and it's Ralph, and he's like, hey, do you want to come in and co-host the Ralph Report with me? I'm like, oh, okay, sure, yeah. And he's like, well, listen to the show first and see if you want to do it. I'm like, no, I want to do it. I didn't even. I was like, yeah, of course I'll do it. He's like, listen to it and find out if you want to do it. I'm like, I know, I'm going to do it. And then that was like our first argument. And I was like, no, I'm going to come in and do it. You can't stop me now. You already asked. And so I came in and we recorded one show, and the general response was positive. I'm sure there was definitely some people that didn't like me, which I'm used to because it's comedy. And, it's sort of like it's all history from there, I guess.
I think my favorite one was we actually had Steve Ashton and Carrie on promoting Holistic Buffet the other week. And I've spoken to Steve before, and he told me that he was still subscribed to the Ralph Report. As far as I know, he still is. Like when he got the job, it's like he goes, so he's not even paying me. I'm paying him to be on his show. So come on,
I subscribe to the Ralph Report too.
So you guys pay him. How does he do this? This is quite the voodoo he's got.
He's amazing. He's an amazing businessman. He does pay me, but I also subscribe to the Ralph Report. Because when I first started, I'm like, I want to hear what's going on. I want to be able to read the comments and get the feedback. And at the time, I was so new to it. I didn't want to ask him, hey, can you hook me up and give me the free Ralph Report? I mean, I'm sure he would have. I'm sure Carrie would have done it.
Oh, definitely.
I just didn't even ask. I was like, it's $3 a month, and I'll just pay the $3 a month. I don't, it's not. I'm not a 4-star. I'm a 1-star. So it's just like I'll just do it. I just wanted to see what the feedback was, and I got a lot of good feedback. I mean, there was negative feedback, but I would read the comments at the beginning and go, okay, this is people sort of like this about the show. People are not liking this about the show. Not people making fun of me and stuff. That's my job. I get that. But there are people like, I remember reading one comment where one lady was like, this one hit me. This was like after doing a week of the show. She's like, I don't really want to listen to two guys agree about everything. And I was like, okay. Because I guess that first week, me and Ralph and I were very simpatico on a lot of our opinions and everything. So I'm like, okay. So I took that to like hard lib. I'm like, okay, what can I do to make this a little more interesting? So I was like, all right, I'll just start taking some, some opposite views of him just to make it interesting. Because that's why I was brought in to begin with, to give Ralph that foil to be dickhead Ralph and yell at me. That's the point of the show, right? Like that's what people love about Ralph. That's why they like him on Babylon. That's why they like him on K-Rock. They like angry, agitated Ralph.
Finally, it makes sense why you came in your second week and told him to go fuck himself at the top of the show.
Exactly.
Now I get it. Now I get it.
See, it all makes sense.
Seemed extreme at the time.
But yeah, I figured out that's what. Okay, I'll just do that. I'll just, and then I can. Most of the opinions are my own, but I'll heighten everything to a certain degree to make it interesting and something you can debate and talk about. But
it really did for me feel like that was when the show came into its own, because obviously Ralph is so polished that he can just talk to himself on a show for like as long as he needs to.
Yeah, exactly.
And like the bits were all there, but like I think just having someone play off like you two do just brought it to life in some way.
No, I agree too. I mean, like that's why people love that aspect of Ralph. They love him having an opinion about something, but then having someone he can argue that opinion to. Like, you can have Ralph giving his monologue or just talking about it for 40 minutes, but you want someone to like to poke him a little bit to heighten his anger about it,
Now, is it true? Like, is it played up at all? Your limited food palette, shall we put it?
It's played up. No, I'm one of those people. I don't really care much about food. Like, food is not something that occupies more than 2 minutes a day in my head. Like, I get hungry, I'm like, oh, I should eat, and then I eat something, and then I go on with my day. I know other people, like my father-in-law, thinks about every meal he's going to have that day when he wakes up. Like he plans it out. Like I know people that plan out like, oh, we'll have this for lunch. Oh, this will be a great dinner. Oh, I can't wait to have this for dinner. Like I don't have that in me. I just don't care. I see food as fuel. And when I need it, I eat it. And then when I don't need it, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
Right. But I know there's people that plan out their whole weeks of meals. Like they do that. Like food is important to people. I get that. It's not important to me. As long as I have food and I can eat and I'm not starving, I'm fine with it. So I don't really care about elaborate meals and having like 7 or 8 flavors in this dish that just explode in your mouth and make, like I don't care about any of that. I just want to eat something so I'm not hungry anymore. So it makes no sense to me to prep for 3 hours a meal and that's going to take me 10 minutes to eat. Like I don't see the point in that. So I guess
do you do self-help tapes where I can listen to you saying this stuff and somehow, because boy, do I like they didn't have to take down the wall, but they measured it up a couple of times when I was at my fattest. So
I know I'm the odd bird when it comes to that, but like that's the way I look at food. I've always looked at food that way. I love sweets. I love a nice ice cream sundae, sure, but I don't think about it all day. I'll be like, oh, Sunday would be good right now, so I'll go to Baskin Robbins or an ice cream shop and I'll have a sundae and I'll eat it, and then I'll move on with my day. But like, I know some people fixate on food. I just don't have whatever that mechanism is in your brain. I don't have it.
While we're on the subject of the Ralph Report, by the way, guys, please go to the Ralph Report on Patreon. You can sign up now. As Eddie's put with his flash $3 a month money, you can enter at a low tier or you can go up to 4-star general. Some wonderful perks to be had. Please do check it out. Great show. But Eddie, how was it doing the live shows? Because they just look like such fun. I love it when Steve comes out in his outfits and you guys go for it.
Live shows are interesting because it's a way different dynamic than the regular show, because the regular show is just Ralph and I, and so we have a certain chemistry and we know each other's, our beats, and our timing is down a certain way because it's two people. But when you have the live show, it's weird because one, we're not facing each other, so we're not looking at each other, but we're sitting there facing the audience, so timing off a little bit. And then you throw in Carrie and Steve, who we never do a show together ever, except for the live shows. So it's a way different dynamic. So it's kind of, if you've ever been to the live show or watched the live stream of the live show, the video of it, It can be a clusterfuck. It can be because there's alcohol involved and Steve's drunk and Ralph's been drinking and Carrie's drunk. Like, it's just it's a clusterfuck. It's controlled chaos, but it's a fun clusterfuck. It's just different than the actual shows because everything is different. The timing's different when you have 4 people there and people you've never been on stage with before. It's odd. It's a different feel. It's a different feel of the show. I like it. But it's different.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be like what keeps it fun is that they're kind of every now and again, and they are so completely different. And
yes.
Of course, with the power of live, you never know what's going to go on in front of a live audience.
And those shows, if you can ever see one live, that's the way to see them in the audience, because they're much. I would imagine it's a much different experience watching it live as watching it on video.
Yeah, I missed you guys when you came over to. I don't know. Did you come over with the
I didn't.
live one in London?
They did Babylon over there. Him and Kevin Smith did Babylon. And
I've seen Babylon. But
Steve followed them around. I think Steve did a couple, like shooting some video for them and stuff. But they didn't do a Ralph Report.
Oh, I thought he did a live one in London.
Yeah.
My mistake.
I think he wants to. I think he would like to. I just don't know. It's got to be financially feasible to sell out enough venues to make the trip to take everybody over there to make it worth it. Like with Babylon, you're going to sell out because Kevin Smith is, he's got fans all over the world, and Babylon will pack the theaters. But Ralph Report, we have the Garmies Die Hard, but I don't know if you can pack, 8 theater shows in the span of 2 days around London or around England or wherever it is, wherever they want to go, to make financially it worth it to come all the way over. That's probably the holdup.
Of course. The other thing, of course, we have to talk about is your unspecial comedy special, which is available now on video and album. I did have this prepared, but now I've lost it. Win it. This will be so impressive. At eddiepence.com, I can't just say that. I didn't need the car on.
No, it looks better with the graphic.
It looks nice, doesn't
I like the font.
What I love about this is, now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but what I'm picturing is, because like usually when you get these comedy specials, you can see it's kind of framed in a certain way. You can tell like marketing people have been involved. On the cover of your picture, it's you in front of a monument as your penis, and it's got you dressed up as Han Solo all over the joint. This is what happens when a comedian's left to his own devices. Am I right here?
Yeah, there's nobody involved with me. I had all the final say. That's the problem. The problem was we were in DC shooting that, like all the exterior stuff, and we're like, oh, I want to get that shot of me laying there with the Washington Monument as my penis. And literally, I had to wait in line because there was like 7 other people taking that picture. Because there's one spot you can lay there on the mall in Washington to make it look perfect. And there was literally like 7 other tourists lined up taking that photo. Like they were all laying there on the ground. I'm like, okay, well, this is real original.
I love it that there's a line to take a
that's
like with the Washington Monument.
That's America. That's America. USA, baby.
Never change, guys. Never change. I like to think there's a similar queue at the Piccadilly, like in front of the Statue of Trafalgar. like on the.
But yeah,
Gotta be.
I was left up to my own devices to do that special, and through the the charity and the goodwill of the Garmy and some of my other fans I've accumulated over 20 years of stand up, I was able to raise enough money to do it. Of course, looking back, there's things I would have done differently, but I'm proud of what we did, and I'm happy with it, and I can't wait to do another one.
Fantastic. And it's out, and as I say, available now on video and audio version.
Yeah, you can get the audio, video, wherever transactional platforms, iTunes, all, app, Google Store, wherever you can buy things, you can buy it there. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can stream it for free.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, definitely going to give that one a listen later. I thought we'd just have a bit of fun at the end of this. I have put together some food items or some challenges, and this is would you rather, basically.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so would you rather eat a haggis, which, as a reminder for anyone who's not familiar, is sheep's intestines in its own sack, a lovely Scottish dish, or be called rainbow unicorn sparkles all day, and you can't explain it until the day's out. You've just got to insist. Any meeting you go and I'm sorry, from now on I will be called rainbow unicorn sparkles. You can explain to them the next day, but for that day, no matter what you're doing, you are rainbow unicorn sparkles.
I've never had true haggis. We had haggis on the live Ralph report. Ralph fed me haggis, but he had American haggis, which you can't get true haggis because of our FDA over here. So I think it was missing. And it was missing some pieces. So I could eat the fake haggis. The fake haggis wasn't too bad. So if I doused it in ketchup, I think I could get it down. Real
haggis, you could eat the whole thing, or rainbow unicorn sparkles.
I think I might want to call it rainbow unicorn sparkles. Then eat the real haggis.
You know that would be on the day when you're pitching like a special to Netflix.
Oh, with my luck, yeah, absolutely. That'd be the first time I get a Tonight Show spot.
Yeah. Like both your name. Yeah, your name and the name of the special, Rainbow Unicorn Sparkles. It's all done. Again, next one is, you may have heard of this famous coffee, which is put through the intestines of a cat, comes out the cat's poo, and they pick out, this is a genuine coffee. I haven't got the name of it here, but there is genuine coffee they sell for tons of money in far off countries, which gone through the stomach of a cat. It softens the beans, so apparently it makes the most lovely coffee, but they pick it out the shit to make it. Genuine thing. I've not made this up.
Feed coffee beans to a cat and then let the cat shit out the beans. Yeah, and then make the coffee out of the cat shit beans. What happens.
It's actually featured in the film Bucket List. If you ever catch that, would you like to do that, or let your kid make all your decisions for a day? Anything.
Oh, I think I would let Colton decide everything for me. Yeah,
okay.
Before eating cat shit coffee, yeah.
Okay.
I would definitely have Colton tell me what to do.
Okay. This next one, it's a fairly light one, actually. This. Have you ever heard of black pudding?
No.
It's basically the offal from a pig made into this kind of like little hockey puck. Comes out black.
Why? Why is that a thing?
To be honest with you, I'm a vegan now. But I used to find this delicious, and I've actually found vegan black pudding. I was the only person requesting this, by the way. I was fairly sure, but it exists. You can do that, or you've got to watch 5 hours of Fox News.
Oh God!
Yeah, I know, that's a Sophie's choice.
Oh God!
Yeah,
I'd probably eat the pudding because it'd be over quicker.
Yeah,
the 5 hours of Fox News, I don't think I could bear. Yeah, I would eat. I almost want to say it's like.
I almost want to go 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. What's your breaking point?
Maybe I could get to an hour, but that would be tough.
Yeah.
Because then again, you don't know after 5 hours if they've hypnotized you or not. You don't know after 5 hours. Like, you're right, they do need to build the wall. Like, you don't know if you don't know if you're going to be brainwashed in 5 hours or not. Like, how many hours does it take a viewer to get brainwashed by them? It must. I don't know. I don't know what the cutoff is. I don't want to take my chances.
We've got next up, cleaning out the elephant enclosure at the zoo for a week.
Oh, God.
Or, now, do you have the program I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in the States?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen it, but I think I've heard it.
they have loads of different trials which involve eating parts of animals, and one of the things they eat on there is eating a kangaroo's anus. So a week of the elephant enclosure or kangaroo's anus is your choice now.
How many hours a day is cleaning the elephant dung?
I mean, you're putting in a good day's work, so 10-hour day. I can imagine they work overtime on that.
This is tough.
And ironically, the elephants have also been eating kangaroo's anus. Just to make it weirder.
Is the anus washed and cleaned and cooked?
Yeah.
I'm
I
not ripping out a raw anus. Just because of the time commitment, I might eat the anus. I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
I might muscle down the anus just because I don't have the time.
I also love the phrase "muscle down the anus."
I will have to that anus.
If anyone's listening to that and just taking that. Oh, that's even worse. I was going to say, if anyone took the audio from this, just from that little segment.
I'd always rather muscle down than in an anus.
Yeah. And finally, you have to spend a week shadowing former Vice President Pence, your surname's sake, calling him father all day, not to do with your surname, just the fact that he likes to be called mother and father for him and his wife. And you like any kind of pro-choice, anti-gay, any like thing he's going to, you shadow him for a week.
Oh,
or you have to go Indiana Jones on this and eat monkey brain.
Ooh. Chilled monkey brains?
Again, the whole brain. Chilled monkey brains, it's coming out of fresh from the head.
And I gotta eat the whole thing?
Yeah. If you vomit, you've got to have another one. But that's versus a week. And like, no matter what batshit, like he's probably still going to interviews and saying how nice Trump really was because he fucking never learns. Like, he tries to get him killed. He's still praising the man.
Oh. I may have to go with monkey brains. I don't know if I could be around that guy for a week.
Yeah.
Without beating the shit out of him. Without actually physically harming him. I don't know if I could be around him for a week. And then I would get in trouble.
Because, I mean, look, I haven't thought about these rules too much, but it has to include you not arguing with him when he's making speeches.
I still know. I don't know. I don't know if I could be quiet at a rally when he's saying stupid shit. I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah. And would there be any of your tongue bloodied as it is left after biting it that hard?
Yeah, I'll do less damage to myself if I eat the monkey brain.
So thank you very much. That's it for now.
Those are tough, dude. Those are lose situations. All of those.
I know, but like I thought, they've already got you trying so many things. How can I up the ante? This was the only way. So in a minute, we're going to wrap things up. But first of all, what have you got coming up? Where can people see you live? All that good stuff.
Right now, everything is still sort of opening up around Los Angeles. If you're in LA, when I get a show, I'll post about it on my social medias, which if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter is @EddiePence. I usually, if I have a show, I post there immediately. Right now, I don't have anything set up, but like here in town, it changes weekly. You get a call on Tuesday to do a spot on Friday, so it can change at any moment. I'm not going on the road right now. I don't have anything lined up around the country or in the world yet. So I'm not doing anything there. I'm just sort of right now, I'm just podcasting on the Ralph Report and just doing a couple things in town, trying to get my, I have another show, old show I used to do called Swings and Misses, which was a sort of a sports comedy podcast. We're trying to get that relaunched. So we're working on that right now too. So.
Fantastic. And please do, guys, check out eddiepence.com.
Yes.
Just because if I write a car on, I'm going to use it twice.
Oh, absolutely. You should.
So we've got an interview with fabulous Canadian comedian Tony Law going out this week. So on our radio show, which is 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. on the Bear.live. If anyone cares to catch it, that's UK time. Please look up local listings. So this will be going out next Thursday. But when it does, we like to play a track requested by our guests. So is there anything you'd like to hear going out this interview on the radio?
Oh, from what we just talked about, this whole experience?
You can either do it about that. You can just pick something you like. Like if there's a monkey brain song or kangaroo anus tune you like, fine. You didn't have to theme it, but you can.
I'm trying to think of highlights from this show. I had some fun stuff on this show. I need to talk about, I think, I don't know, people find interesting, maybe how to get into stand-up comedy, what stand-up comedy is about, how you do that in that area, or maybe, I don't know.
I was just thinking of a music track. I was thinking of a music track.
I thought you meant from the show we just did.
Oh, right. Okay. I understand what you meant. I thought you were trying to theme your song in to something we talked about. It's like, sure.
I don't know. I'm pretty general with music. I could, whatever. What do you normally play? What do people normally request?
Well,
play AC/DC. Something from AC/DC. I'll do AC/DC.
A bit of Back in Black?
Back in Black. Perfect.
Fantastic. Which themes into Lewis Black? Yeah, we have themes.
There you go. Perfect. See, I figured it out.
You see, the thing is, when I ask this, it can be really interesting because I can either get some wonderful stuff which I know, some wonderful stuff I don't know, or some utter shit some guests. I must admit, there's been some bollocks which some people have recommended, but we like to keep our guests happy. So I'm very happy to play. For the people listening on the radio, this has been Eddie Pence. Please now enjoy Back in Black by AC/DC.
Nice.
Now we've got rid of those jokers. Anyone watching on the video, thank you very much for watching us live or watching us back on our YouTube channel or wherever else you may have found this wonderful show. Thank you very much for joining us, Eddie.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun.
And if anyone asks, 2 more hours he was on the show. 2 more hours, okay? The man needs a break.
I got some free time right now. I can't wait.
You've literally got to carry your wife around. Come on.
I know. I think I have to take her to the doctor. She needs some muscle relaxers or something.
Fantastic.
It's a nightmare.
Enjoy that, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a wonderful night. Guys, thank you very much for watching. And I've been Dr. Squee. That was my show. And please remember, in a world where you can be anything, please be kind.